Imagine yourself as a brilliant neuroscientist who has been studying bats since preschool. You master everything about bats, down to the function of each individual neuron and cell in their bodies. Yet there's a catch. You will never truly experience or begin to imagine what it's like to be a bat. The idea of echolocation is familiar to everyone. Bats send pulses of sound waves and listen for their echoes, determining the size, shape, and location of the things that bounces back the sound waves. Despite sounding simple enough, it is fundamentally different than what us humans are used to. Just try to picture yourself being basically blind, in the dark, and relying on echolocation. You can't, because it's all simply too alien for the human mind to comprehend. Before we jump into the main point, we first need to talk a little bit more about science as a means of perceiving the world. The human mind is unique in that it can step outside and question its own perspective. You can question your belief about, say, a certain genre of music, asking yourself, what if I'm biased in my judgment? Though it seems a simple process, being able to question one's own thinking in such a casual manner is a superpower that only humans have. Chimps need to take a while to get there, but humans can do it in less than a second. This creates something called reflective distancing, where the human is able to step back from their raw experience and analyze it abstractly. This is the basis of science and philosophy. While a bat lives in its echolocation unthinkingly, we are able to dissect it into frequencies and neurons. This is how science operates, taking a third-person perspective in order to explain things in an objective manner. Yet, in 1974, a philosopher named Thomas Nagel points out a bug in this system. He says that consciousness is the first and most obvious failure of reflective distancing. His central claim is that the subjective experience cannot be reduced to any third-person perspective. We can imagine hanging upside down in a cave, flying, or eating mice, but we cannot imagine what it is like to possess a bat's consciousness. Even if we know everything about a bat using science, we would still be oblivious to what it is like of echolocation and existence as a bat. This may begin to sound a bit abstract, but bear with me. If we ground everything down to their bare essence, there are only two types of entities in existence, the subject and the object. The subject is the entity experiencing phenomena. As I am speaking, I perceive myself as the subject of this world, at the computer in front of me as an object, because I am experiencing everything through my perception. For you, on the other hand, you see yourself as the subject experiencing everything, and this video as an object within the subject's experience. Science tries to get rid of the subject, viewing everything as an object. Nagel, however, states that reflective distancing creates a misbalance between one's perception of oneself as the subject and the objects around them. Nagel called this the view from nowhere problem. Consciousness, by definition, is the view from somewhere. It is anchored in a particular body with a particular sense and a specific way of processing the world. Selfhood is not a substance, but the tension between standpoints. Without differences between my perception and yours, subjective experience would not exist, and that's where Nagel saw a crack in reality. He argues that the more one tries to view the self through an objective lens, the more the subjective self disappears. Imagine dissecting a joke to find what makes it happy. In the process, the laughter dies. Similarly, when science treats your inner world as mere data, the you-ness of experience gets flattened into sterile facts. The subjective I can't be found in brain scans or behavioral reports, because it exists only from the inside. The more forcefully we demand a view from nowhere, the more we exile ourselves. It's one thing to explain how a brain processes information. It's another to explain why any of that should feel like something. And Nagel's bat exposes just how hard that problem is. If we can't even grasp the inner life of a small earthly mammal, how could we ever claim to understand consciousness in general? Hence, Nagel is not telling us to forsake science. Instead, he is trying to tell us to embrace the uncertainty when it comes to ourselves. And this made me think of the problem of is my blue the same as your blue? At some point in your life, you've definitely been told that the sky is blue. But what if there was a person with an inverted perception of color, where his blue is your red and his red is your blue? Then, if he was told throughout his life that the sky was blue, he will still call the color of the sky he perceives, in this case your red, the term blue, and nobody will know, because you cannot possibly know what it is like to perceive objects as completely different subjects. The quality, the raw feeling of seeing blue exists only in the self. So the next time you see a bat, remember, you're looking at the universe of experience you will never touch. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's what makes it worth exploring in the first place. So, those are my thoughts on Nagel's arguments. I hope you learned something in this video. If you're interested in literature and philosophy, or you just enjoy having your brain folded into origami, hit the like and subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next video.